Hello everyone. I have a big topic today because I'm talking about one of the biggest metagame shifts that competitive TF2 has ever seen. So you see that I am on Scout for this demo. Yet again, you're going to see some trash and some random feeds because my Scout DM is just poor. But we are talking about the Scout speed. So what I mean by this is in a update, I don't know if this was me or Match or what update introduced it, but Medic used to just have Medic movement speed, and that never changed. Now, Medic matches whatever speed, or rather, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't get slower, of course, but you will match up to your heal target's movement speed. So if you're healing a scout, then you move at scout speed, is the big one. I suppose it technically applies to like Spy, or Spy is the same speed as Med, or just barely slower or something like that. I don't know. Hardly matters. So yeah, this scout speed. And this was a change that was controversial among competitive players for a similar reason to the crossbow, which I've talked about in the past, in that it does objectively, or did objectively, remove some skill expression from the game. But it added more in other facets, so it is something that is very generally accepted now. But was definitely, there were discussions to be had about it in the past. And I think TF2's every once in a while will test out or probe the community with a poll or something about potentially reintroducing a plugin to remove scout speed or whatever, just to shake things up. I don't know. I'm not from Europe, so I don't really know the extent to that. But let's talk about scout speed and how it actually changes the meta in a really big way. So for starters, let's talk a little bit about what the metagame kind of looked like before. Pretty similar from an outside perspective. You're still running 2 scouts, 2 soldiers, a demo, and a medic, just because those are really good classes, regardless of how fast your medic can run. And you still do have a combo and flank split, pretty much. One scout is generally going to be playing much closer to your medic than the other. So you still kind of have that pocket scout role. Just not to the same extent we see now, and you definitely have a much more combo-oriented pocket soldier. Nowadays, pocket soldier is almost like a second roamer. The difference between the roles is much is diminished nowadays, in the sense that your pocket might absolutely be like going for sacks. Your pocket is still in all likelihood going to be running the gunboats, and your pocket is going to be doing a lot of jumping around, in some cases even flank plays, going behind and stuff like that. Basically, your pocket is not going to be just babysitting your combo, although in some cases like that is part of their role, is being able to be near and around the combo to help out. But it's much more of a roamery kind of play style. Your pocket in modern TF2 is a lot looser than it used to be back in the day, and shotgun pocket was a lot more common as well. For that reason, you kind of have these pocket soldiers just getting hard tanked. A lot of the super boomers in this game still, think back on those times very fondly and try to replicate it with, running shotgun today. But unfortunately, in many cases, they are a little bit washed up, and the playstyle just, isn't as fundamentally strong anymore. So that is one big change. Is it kind of, in some sense, killed the shotgun pocket, not necessarily by making it just straight up worse, but by speeding up the game in general. Because the big thing that scout speed did is enabled medics to move around the map a lot faster, which has some pretty serious implications. So for starters, team aggression is able to be much, much faster, because you're just able to push into points faster. And being able to latch onto a scout, you're just going to be able to transition through doors a lot quicker. And that has that can punish enemy positioning for sure. Because again, you're just able to get through the doors faster. If you have ad, then you can play that ad faster. If I haven't said that word enough. Which definitely matters. And just speeding up the pace of the game in general is something that this you can see I'm just going back here for really no other reason than to be able to have my medic get that scout speed so that we are able to transition into this point a lot quicker. And it's generally just a lot easier for us. So as a result, again, you just have this faster paced gameplay, and you really, really want a scout near your medic now, which you already kind of had, but now the kind of designated medic protector is going to be a pocket scout. And that definitely frees up your pocket soldier to potentially do some other things, depending on how things are going. Which is really useful because soldiers are just fantastic classes aggressively. And pocket soldier nowadays is kind of the space making class because it's very easy for you to either get an arrow just to get topped off to full HP, or in some cases you might have crit heals and you actually get to get buffed, but you can very easily bomb through a door and force players back to, you know, quote unquote create space for your team to walk through. Stuff like that's very, very useful. So yeah, this definitely enabled a much more loose pocket soldier gameplay, and definitely reinforced that kind of fragging combo scout playstyle as well, which scouts were not really the super star performers. And modern scout was kind of a path that was forged before scout speed, in the sense that you know, people weren't too keen on the absolute brokenness of scout too early on. Once people started to figure out the game more, started to get better at the game as well, some of the really abusable facets of scout started getting figured out a bit more, and the absolutely broken and privileged class that it is started coming to light in a bigger way. So that is a big change. Now let's talk about these negatives, right? Because I haven't really talked about them or even alluded to them. So as mentioned, the fact that your meta can move a lot faster means that teams can get a lot more aggressive. However, it also means that teams defensively are much more fluid. And that can be an issue. If you can have your medic play much more forward and just easily run them away with scout speed, then that means that your medic's positioning is not nearly as punishable, right? There are a lot of maybe messy situations. Maybe it's a post-Uber fight. Maybe it's, you know, being down players in a situation which you don't have Uber, or neither team has Uber. The other team's trying to take space or stuff like this. A lot of these messy situations are even just straight bog standard Uber disad. Your medic's positioning is not going to be nearly as punishable, which objectively removes some of the skill expression from the game, right? Because suddenly your positioning just does not matter in a case like that. In a similar kind of case to where if you are in like a no crossbow meta, then you can push off of damage that you dealt, right? And you just kind of can't do that against the crossbow. Exact same sort of situation in which you really can't punish a medic's positioning in the same ways that you could before. Or there's just a lot of ways where a medic with maybe poor positioning that maybe should be caught for that mistake is absolutely bailed out by being able to just beam their scout and get out of there. So objectively, yes, it did remove some skill expression. But I think overall, and what the vast majority of competitive players nowadays would argue, is that the scout speed does overall make the game better because, again, it also enables really strong aggressive plays and aggressive rotations. In the past, let's say like pressuring into last, for example, nowadays you could rotate doors with reasonable speed at least. That's not something that you could maybe do in the past, although I guess you know, certain lasts, the doors are pretty close together, so it's somewhat negligible. But being able to rotate through doors, being able to go from point to point or pushing points is overall much faster. And also that the difficulty with which you have in pressuring, or excuse me, with punishing medics' positionings defensively is in some cases balanced out by the fact that you just are much more potent aggressively. Also, another thing that this really opened up is the dynamics of Uber exchanges, where Uber exchanges are one of the most deep and like skill intensive and just like knowledge based, just insanely deep game facet, I suppose, where there's so many factors to consider, and a lot of them are extremely dynamic and extremely fluid, and it kind of feels like it's just that like the exchange is just for that situation, right? Whereas compare that to a case like, you know, pressuring into last. A lot of the time, you know, sacking into last, it's going to be the same point, the same hold, and you might have the same type of strategies. With Uber exchanges, sometimes, yeah, it's you know, pretty standard situations, but a lot of the time as well, it's just extremely fluid and dynamic positions where you might not have seen something like that before, and being able to play that sort of position is a huge check on not only like your DM and your aim, but also like team coordination, who's doing what, just situational awareness and like knowing what's going on, as well as like playing the post and stuff like that. And part of the reason why Uber exchanges are so complicated is because Ubers have just inherently more range than they used to. As a scout, you get to run your medic a lot further. And this also did kind of pioneer, or at least contributed to the pioneering of the sort of modern Uber, which is usually, or modern ad Uber, I should say, which hardly even involves a soldier. Usually you're only bringing a soldier in certain cases, one being your demo being dead, but it's usually bombing in a demo and then chasing with your scout with that scout speed to re-flash them, which increases the range of your Ubers so much. So again, kind of that counterbalancing factor of, yes, while it's easier for the other team to run away with scout speed, so their positioning might be a little harder to punish in theory. In practice, like being able to bomb your demo pretty deep and still catch up to them and re-flash them so they're not in a ton of danger is huge, and definitely increases the aggressive capabilities of teams. That being said, flashing soldiers and Ubers is curiously something that I saw a lot out of Froyotech in this past season when Banny was on Pocket Soldier. And I think part of that is just because it's Banny, so he wants to get involved in his team's Ubers. But a lot of the time it worked out, and I saw a lot of value where, you know, if you're getting a guaranteed force anyway, then just bombing in your soldier, well, or rather, I should say, bombing in that soldier with a flash basically gets a guaranteed force, and you have a healthy soldier who can just then immediately bomb behind, right? So there was some interesting value there. And again, just kind of demonstrating a lot of the fluidity of Uber exchanges in general. But you can see all these different facets of gameplay in which the modern game is absolutely influenced by scout speed. Whether that be from relatively simple things, such as, you know, your pocket soldier playing much looser and being more freed up to do things such as go behind, such as you know, help out the flank as well as the combo. Yeah, just freed up to do what they need to. You also have a much more beam oriented pocket scout playing around your demo and your medic as a very coherent combo unit. And then other cases of strategies that are completely changed or introduced as a result of this scout speed change, such as the modern Uber being a demo bomb rather than including your pocket soldier in much at all. So you can see, despite being a really, really simple change on the surface of just enabling your medic to run faster when healing a particular class, the actual metagame implications were pretty massive. And I think overall it is a positive change. And nowadays you have a much faster paced and, I don't necessarily want to say looser, but yeah, a more fluid and a more dynamic game that a lot of people definitely enjoy. So I do think that the scout speed change was certainly a positive one, but one that required a lot of adjusting, and one that had maybe some unexpected implications for how people play sixes. So anyway, that's probably all I have to talk about the topic. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.